Our cover story is about the ultimate danger, the Ukraine war going nuclear. Now, this is not an idle threat or bravado by a maverick commander. This actually was a threat that's been made by Vladimir Putin himself. On Tuesday, he issued a clear and unambiguous ultimatum that Russia would use depleted uranium weapons on the battlefield. Why? To avenge the death of one of his top generals. His name was Sergei Goryachev, a major general in the Russian military and the chief of staff of the 35th Combined Arms Army. On Tuesday, he was reportedly killed in a Ukrainian missile strike during Kiev's counter-offensive in the Zaporizhia region, and reports say the strike was carried out using British-supplied Storm Shadow missiles. The 52-year-old general was a highly decorated officer. He fought in the Second Chechen War, commanded a tank brigade, also oversaw a Russian base in Tajikistan, and led Russian forces in Moldova. Now, he was one of the Russian president's best commanders, and his death is a major blow for the Kremlin. You see, Putin will not let this wound to Russia's military ego go unanswered. Now, have a look at this report. On the same day Sergei Goryachev died, the Russian president issued this warning. He said that Moscow could use weapons with depleted uranium in Ukraine. He also issued a direct ultimatum to the West, warning that there could be no end to the war in Ukraine. He said, and I'm quoting from his statement, the United States pretends not to be afraid of an escalation of the conflict in Ukraine. But sane people, they clearly do not want to take this to a third world war. In the event of a third world war, there will be no winners, including America. Now, you see, this marks a big turning point in this war, one that could make it more dangerous. Depleted uranium is a dense byproduct that is left over when uranium is enriched for use in nuclear reactors or nuclear weapons. In fact, it retains some radioactive properties, but cannot generate a nuclear reaction like a nuclear weapon would. But it is still very dangerous. Now, according to experts, depleted uranium mainly emits alpha particle radiation. Alpha particles don't have enough energy to go through one's skin, but if they are ingested or inhaled, they could be a serious health hazard. In fact, it can also be used for tank armor and bullets due to its high intensity, through which it can penetrate enemy armored vehicles. In other words, depleted uranium is mildly radioactive, but the radiation could spread terror, and once it lands on the battlefield, it will invite escalation. And there's no saying what could follow next. Is the general's death the only reason Putin would deploy such a weapon? Well, not really. There are other factors involved as well. It's also because Ukraine is getting them too. Reports say the UK is planning to supply depleted uranium shells to Ukraine's armed forces, and the US also is set to approve depleted uranium tank rounds for Ukraine. So Putin has more than one reason to be the first to use these weapons. And as the stakes increase, so will the costs. The money to fund the deployment of these weapons. Russian coffers are already drained. The war has been underway for a year. To shore up the coffers, Putin has hit oligarchs with $5.3 billion war tax. The proposed levy was outlined in a bill introduced on Tuesday. And under this bill, Russian businesses making profits of over 1 billion rubles a year will have to pay a one-off tax worth up to 10% of their total gains. And through this bill, Moscow plans to raise an estimated 3 billion rubles from its oligarchs. Russian media reports are claiming that the oligarchs themselves came up with the idea. Why did they do this? Because they realized they have made gigantic profits during the course of this war. So it's a win-win deal for both the sides. The Ukraine war, in fact, has already become a testing ground for the most modern and sophisticated weaponry on both sides. And Russia has claimed its first kill by artificial intelligence. You heard that right. Reports say its highly acclaimed S-350 Gravitas air defense system shot down a Ukrainian aircraft while operating in auto mode. This is an extraordinary feat. An aircraft destroying another without any operator intervention. And this marks the first instance where a system operated completely automatically used artificial intelligence for combat. But the question is, will Putin succeed in the larger war in turning the much-hyped Ukraine counteroffensive into minor gains while the world tries anxiously to find a route map towards negotiations that result in a ceasefire, if not in the end of war? The jury is open, but this much is clear. Both sides are in a hard slog, and the only thing that is clear at this point is that the price will be paid in blood, not only by generals, but by thousands upon thousands of ordinary soldiers. WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the updates on the move.